Good morning, students. Today our topic is Agar, an impression material. So we have already seen about alginate in the last class. So we know that impression materials are mainly classified into reversible and irreversible type and elastic and rigid types. Like we have seen different classification. Okay, so the agar is a material, a natural material which is coming under a reversible type and an elastic type, and it is coming under a hydrocolloid category. So, today we are dealing with this material, which was very popular and before, but it is not very much usually used in clinical situation nowadays. It is mainly using for the duplication of cast in the laboratory. So agar is mucostatic, elastic, and reversible hydrocolloid. So mucostatic, there are another category of impression material with mucostatic and mucocompressive. There are two categories other than elastic and inelastic, reversible and irreversible. So mucostatic and mucocompressive. So here your agar belongs to a mucostatic and uh, elastic and reversible type of hydrocolloid material. It is an organic hydrophilic colloid polysaccharide extracted from certain types of seaweed, and it is a sulfuric ester of linear polymer of galactose. The IDA specification number for the agar is 1111. So that you can remember very easily because A stands for 1 and agar 2 A's are there 1 1 11. Okay, so don't forget, that's very easy to remember. Okay. And for a better understanding of hydrocolloid, we need to know about what is solution and suspension. In a solution, usually a solid is dispersed in another, and thus a solution exists as a single phase because there is no separation between the solute and the solvent. So solution consists of a dispersion medium and dispersed phase, but it is completely dissolved, but it is not existing in two different entities. But in suspension, on the other hand, consists of larger particles that can be seen under microscope. Or even by the naked eye, so dispersed in a medium. Similarly, liquid distributed in liquids are emulsions, suspensions, and emulsions are two-phase systems. Here we can differentiate. That's the only difference between solution and suspension. And what is colloid? It is an aggregate of very fine particles dispersed in a continuous medium. The two phases of the colloid sol are dispersed phase and a dispersion phase. Types of colloids are colloidal sol may be liquid or solid in air, otherwise known as aerosol, or it can be lyosol. It can be gas or liquid, or solid in liquid. It's otherwise known as lyosol. Gas, liquid, or solid in solid. That's another phase of colloid. Hydrocolloid, basically they are lyosols. They consisting of gelatin particles suspended in water. So here the dispersion phase is water. Hydrocolloids, that is why it got the term hydro. Hydro means water. So dispersion medium is water. Since water is a dispersion medium, it is known as hydrocolloid. The particles are larger than those in solutions and size ranges from 1 to 200 nanometers. So, then you have to know about gel, salts, and gelation. What is gel? Colloid with A liquid as a dispersion medium can exist in two different forms known as solid and gel. The solid means solid in solid. A solid has the appearance and many characteristics of a viscous liquid in which the particles are solid. The dispersion medium is fluid. A gel is a jelly-like elastic semi-solid and is produced from a sol by a process called gelation by the formation of fibrils or chains or micelles of the dispersed phase, which become interlocked. Gelation is a conversion of a sol to gel. The dispersion medium in interstices between the fibrils of capillary attraction or adhesion. Lowering the temperature, or it can be achieved by chemical reaction. Lowering the temperature, you can achieve gelation, for example, in agar, but in the alginate, the gelation occurs by chemical reaction. Okay, so gelation is a process by which it becomes solid, but it is elastic. That particular gelation can be achieved by temperature change as well as chemical reaction. So two examples is given. So in the agar, which we are dealing with, the gelation is happening because of the thermostatic regulation or temperature change. Then what is gel strength? Gel strength is depends on density of the fibrillar structure. We need certain gel strength to get details in critical areas for impression. Greater the concentration, greater will be the number of micelles and hence greater the brush sheet density. Fillet particles become trapped in the fibrillar network and their size, shape and density determine their effectiveness. Addition of fillers also increases the viscosity of the solid. In reversible hydrocolloid, the lower the temperature, the greater will be the gel strength as gelation is more complete. Types of hydrocolloids. It can be a reversible hydrocolloid or irreversible hydrocolloid. Reversible hydrocolloid, they are called reversible because their physical state can be reversed. So agar is an example of reversible hydrocolloid. So when you lower the temperature, it will form gel. When you increase the temperature, it forms a sol form. It become fluid. So you can store and you can reuse it. But irreversible hydrocolloid, the gelation is happening by chemical reaction. So once it undergone chemical reaction and it forms gel in, for example, alginate, you cannot reverse it, you cannot reuse it. So that is the difference between alginate and your agar. So agar. Sorry. Uses of agar widely used at the present for cast duplication. I have already told. Cast duplication is the main use of this material, especially making cast partial dentures. We have using it in the clinical lab as well as the other laboratories. For full mouth impression without deep undercut, that is the second use. And third was used extensively for crown and bridge impression before elastomers came to the market. So, since it has got an excellent capacity to record the finer details, it has been in wide use before we invent the impression materials, the family elastomers. So once the elastomers get into the seed, the agar took the back seat. And this agar is rarely used as tissue conditioners also. It has it cannot survive too much of time in mouth, so it is very temporary tissue conditioner. It's used as temporary tissue conditioner. And the agar-agar is supplied as gel in collapsible tube. That is, it is supplied for impression, and it is supplied in a number of cylinders in glass jars as syringe material. And it is supplied in bulk containers, which is commonly used in laboratories for duplication of the cast. It is supplied in collapsible tube and the cylinders and bulk containers. Sorry. Now we will see what are the ingredients of agar-agar. The ingredients, it's a main ingredient, main composition of this material is water. Around 80, more than 80% of the constituents in this gel is water, and other constituents collectively they will be around 15 to 17% or 15 to 20% totally. So the main ingredients are borates, potassium sulfate, wax, isotropic materials, and alkyl benzoates, coloring and flavoring agents, traces, and water balance. Water I have already told, around more than 80% it constituent of agar-agar is water. So each function will look into the functions of each constituents. Borate improve the strength of gel, and potassium sulfate it counters the retarding effects of borates, so it balances the reaction, and proper setting it leads to the proper setting of cast dye. And waxes, it acts as fillers, and thixotropic materials acts as plasticizers, and thymol acts as a bactericidal agent, because the agar is a otherwise used as culture medium, so bacterial growth is very fast in agar-agar, so we should use some bacteria, some ingredients in which has got a capacity of bactericidal action. So we add thymol to get the bactericidal effect. Then alkyl benzoate, it acts as a preservative. So for the storage of this material, we need alkyl benzoate, and we used to add coloring and flavoring agents. Depends on different companies produce it. You can see different colors add to this to form the gel. And it is for patient comfort also, because patient will be attracted with will be comfortable with the certain colors, so we can select according to the patient's choice. So now we are coming to the manipulation of agar-agar, which is very important, which usually ask for Viva and theory questions. Manipulation of agar. Agar hydrocolloid requires special equipments. Hydrocolloid, the equipment consists of mainly two portions: hydrocolloid conditioners and water cooled rimlet trays. So the hydrocolloid conditioners require for the manipulation of agar. Maybe you are supplying, you are getting it as a gel, and you cannot directly take the gel into the mouth and make impressions. So you may have to melt it first. So while melting, the temperature will be more. So you have to make this gel temperature, this material temperature into a mouth tolerable temperature for around 40 degrees centigrade. So it's otherwise known as conditioning. And you may have to store this conditioned material for some time before taking into the mouth. So all these are happening, all these are doing with the hydrocolloid conditioners. Once you condition the material, it can carry into the tray, and the tray will be carried into the mouth to formate the impression of the mouth. So, and the different compartments of this conditioning unit are liquefaction section, storage section, and tempering section. So, liquefaction section, as I told before, the material is melted into 100 degrees centigrade by using boiling water. And every time the material is liquefied, 3 minutes should be added. This is because it is more difficult to break down the agar brush heat structures after previous use. So, in that chamber, it will be liquefied, but liquefied is in the higher temperature. But and in the storage section, we will be keeping a 65 to 68 degree centigrade, so that it will not again condense and form a jet. So this temperature is ideal for storage. It can be stored in a sold condition till needed. And from there, you cannot directly take the 65, 68 degree centigrade into the mouth, because it is not mouth tolerable. So the next is the tempering section. In the tempering section, what we do is we should bring down the temperature of the material into mouth tolerable temperature of 40 to 46 degrees centigrade, and it is loaded in the tray. And this is done to reduce the temperature so that it can be tolerated by the sensitive oral tissue. So this is the picture of the conditioning unit. You can see the chambers. One chamber is the liquefaction chamber, one chamber is the storage chamber, and another chamber you can see it is the conditioning chamber. And you can see the material syringing device, and this is the impression tray. Okay. Impression tray into which we load the material before taking into the mouth. So what is the speciality of impression trays in it? We will see. It is a ring lock tray with water circulated devices to make the gel, make the material bring down its temperature, and we should facilitate the formation of gel once you make the impression. So you need it to be cooled. Since your mouth temperature is little higher, so it is better you use water cooled trays so that you can bring down the temperature of the material and force this material into set and form the gel. The rim lock is beading, on the inside edge of the tray, which helps to retain the material. So this rim lock all around the rim make this material retentive inside the impression tray, so it will not dislodge. The rim lock hold the material, and the tray should allow a space of 3 millimeter occlusally and laterally, and extend distally to cover all the tip. So 3 millimeter gel thickness is mandatory for its function, its material. And we'll see how will you make the impression. The tray conditioning and tempered material is removed from the bar. The outer surface of the agar sole is scraped off, where the water hoses are connected, and the tray is positioned inside the mouth by the dentist. Water is circulated 18 to 21 degrees centigrade, which is very cool, no, compared to the material temperature, through the tray until gelation occurs. A rapid cooling is not recommended, as it can induce distortion. So you should go with a slow cooling of the material. So the gelation is happening in a slow manner, and you can get a dimensionally stable impression. To guide the tray into position, 3 stops of compound are prepared on non-involved teeth. A hose dam is constructed with compound to prevent distal flow of the impression material. When you remove the impression, only after the gelation of the agar happened, completed, the peripheral seal around the impression is broken and the impression is removed rapidly from the mouth with a single stroke and snap. Since it is hydrocolloid impression material, whether it is alginate or your agar, it should be removed with a single stroke or snap to preserve the dimensional stability. So, because within the elastic limit, you have to manipulate that, remove it. So once you accept a sustained force and all, there will be chances of going for a dimensional instability. The impression is rinsed throughout thoroughly in water, and excess water is removed by shaking the impression carefully. Storage of agar impression. Storage of agar impression is, as we discussed in alginate, it should be under 100% humidity. It is always better to pour the cast as soon as possible without storage. But if you want to storage any hydrocolloid impression material, store it under 100% relative humidity. Otherwise, it will result in synersis or imbibition. We have already discussed regarding these properties of hydrocolloid when we dealt with alginate impression material. And again, we are coming to the properties of synersis imbibition, that is dimension stability. Imbibition is the intake of water and swelling of material, which lead to the dimensional instability, and the imbibed impression cannot be used for clinical work. The gel may also lose water by exuding a fluid in a process known as synersis. So it can be synersis. Both should be prevented. So when you store the impression, you should keep it under 100% humidity. You cannot store under water also. It can imbibe water. But if you store in a dry place, it can go for a synersis. Both will cause a dimensional instability of the material, and once the material becomes dimensionally instable, you cannot pour the material and make cast with that. Now we are coming to the working and setting time of agar. It is 7 to 15 minutes working time, and setting time is about 5 minutes. So you have to manipulate the material within 7 to 15 minutes, and once you keep it inside the mouth, you have to wait at least for 5 minutes till the final set is over. Now, a very important property of is we should consider is tear and compressive strength. Agar has a tear strength of 715 gram per centimeter square, and a compressive strength of 8,000 gram per centimeter square. Compressive strength should not be less than 35.6 psi for the material. Now, the impression technique. There are two impression techniques known as wet field technique and laminate technique, which is used for agar. In the laminate technique, we combine two materials, agar and alginate, to get the properties of both, better properties of both in the impression. Here, after injecting the syringe agar onto the area to be recorded, an impression tray containing a mix of chilled alginate that will bond with this syringe agar is positioned on it. The alginate gel by a chemical reaction, whereas the agar gel by means of contact with the cool alginate rather than the water circulating through the tray. Advantage: the syringe agar gives better details than alginate, less air bubbles, water-cooled trays are not required, and it sets faster than the regular agar technique. Now we are coming to the wet field technique. This is relatively a new technique which has become popular. Areas to be recorded are flooded with warm water. Then the syringe material is introduced quickly, liberally, and in bulk to cover the occlusal and incisal areas only. While the syringe material is still in liquid, the tray material is heated and hydraulic pressure of the viscous tray material forces the liquid syringe hydrocolloid down into the areas to be recorded. This motion displaces the syringe material as well as blood and debris throughout the surface. Advantages and disadvantages of Agar. Advantages are accurate. Dies can be prepared. It has good elastic properties and refuse most undercut areas correctly. It has good recovery from distortion as it is not hydrophobic. It has good model surface. It is cheap as compared to the synthetic elastic material. It can, because since it can be reused. It is becoming more cheaper. It is compared to the alginate. It's becoming cheaper because it can be reused. And disadvantages are there's poor dimensional strength and tear strength. Gel strength is less compared to the alginate. Does not flow well when compared newly newly available material. It cannot be electroplated too. During insertion and gelation, it may be painful to the patient. Tears relatively easily. Only one model can be poured. You cannot repeat pouring like elastomeric impression material. The elastomeric material impression material, the impression can be more poured in multiple times. Extensive and expensive equipment is required, which is another disadvantage of this material. The manipulation is a little expensive. Yes, but it is a one-time investment. Since you can reuse the material, it will not be a problem for us. A soft surface of gypsum causes result unless a plaster hardener is used. So you have to use gypsum hardener once you pour the gypsum. Although it can be reused, it is impossible to sterilize this material. Also, with repeated use, there may be contamination of the material and a deterioration of the properties. Composition, properties, or manipulation of Agar, hydrocolloid conditioner, synersis, imbibition, and laminate technique. That's the end of our section of Agar. Thank you, and we will continue with the next material, the next class. Our next material will be a rigid material, impression compound. Thank you.